Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another live stream here on TA with K. Of course, my name is and always will be, until further notice, McKay. Happy Monday. I don't know if that's actually genuine to say because I'm not sure that it is that happy of a Monday. I don't know about you guys, but it's a long day today. 8-hour shift seemed to last for about 28 hours, it felt like. Let me turn on the music here so I can actually hear it. I like being able to hear the music. Okay, media source. Let's make it so I can hear that. Actually, it's not even going, is it? So how's everybody doing? I had a guy in the chat here, Disclosure Crypto, asking me to check out the Gary network. I really quickly looked it up on CoinGecko. I guess that's the ticker, G-A-R-I. Looks like it was ranked like 1,500. Does that sound right? Is that the coin you're talking about? And what are you wanting me to check out? Just like my price prediction using my formula, I would assume. Just let me know. I'll check the chat here frequently, and you can tell me what it is that you're wanting me to check. I don't really know why there's no sound here coming out of the old music. Can you guys hear the music at all? I'm guessing probably not, and that's fine. We don't really need music in the background, but I kind of like it typically. But for some reason, it's just not going right now, and I don't know why. Oh well. Who knows? Advanced audio properties, media source, monitor and output. Well, we can mess with that the next go around. So anyhow, guys, the topics we're going to be talking about today, I don't see anybody really in chat yet. So, if anybody has anything cool to say or want to tell me how your day is going or something, of course, I can address that before we actually jump into the topics. But the topics that we will be talking about today are going to be just an update on Bitcoin, which isn't going to be too exciting because there's not a whole lot happening with Bitcoin. But of course, tied with that, we'll look at the S&P 500, maybe even take a peek at the DXY, just kind of see if anything has changed at all, if we're still kind of biased towards the downside, which is where I've been kind of for the past week or so. Or, is there something in the charts that tells us maybe something otherwise? Or is it literally just a flip of the coin right now? And then we're going to kind of, mess around with setting up a chart. What I want to start doing on some of these live streams, for some of the new people to crypto anyways, is kind of have a segment each day where more or less we go through something that would be considered beginner's TA. I mean, this is a TA channel after all. So today we're just going to do some very basic setting up a chart from scratch. Obviously on TradingView, that's what the majority of people use to chart on. That's what I use. It's what I think that is probably the best to use. And then we're going to talk a little bit about DCAing in and out of trades. So it's dollar cost average is what DCA stands for. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then at the end, I'm just going to kind of say a little bit of what's on my mind. Of course, that could change by the minute. I had a long day, so there might not be anything on my mind. We might get to that point and I'll literally just have nothing to say. But I do have a few things that are on my mind as far as crypto goes that I wanted to talk about towards the end of the video. So of course we'll do that. In the meantime, we'll just give it a couple more minutes to see if anybody else pops in. And while we're waiting on that, I'm going to try to figure out why my media source over here stopped playing. So it was playing just fine, and then all of a sudden now it's like, hey, I'm not going to play for you anymore. Let's go see if we can figure that out. Media source. Here, actually, let's figure out if I can find where it's at. Let me go to the I'll be right back in just a second here, guys. Need to figure out where this file is located so that I can put it in the background here. So I'll be over here. Yeah, okay, so messing with that right now. Hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, not really having technical difficulties per se, but we're just gonna take a minute before we get started. I'm just trying to get the little background music that I usually have playing going. I guess I'm not entirely sure why it's not, but that's not the end of the world by any means. Let's go see if we can find it. Properties. Okay. Oh, that's aggressive. That's aggressive. Okay. Let's see if it's playing here by chance. Negative 40.4. Okay, let's turn it to negative 40. Okay, so anybody that's out there by chance in the stream, let me know if the audio sounds okay, if it needs to go up, down, on as far as that background music is concerned. I think that that's what we wanted now on that. Obviously, I can hear it now in my headphones, but I can't hear my own voice. I don't know if that's matching up okay, but either way, until somebody says otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and just assume that we're okay on that. And we're going to dive into our first topic, which is actually going to be just an update on Bitcoin. So before we do that, guys, if you're new to the live streams, new to the channel in general, and you want to throw some love, you can always like and subscribe. It obviously helps the channel tremendously to grow. These live streams are something that I'm just started to do a week or so ago. I don't know if this is my third, fourth, fifth, somewhere in that range. So we're kind of tweaking things as we go. Now, if you guys ever have any suggestions of things you'd like me to talk about, obviously Disclosure Crypto asked me to talk about Gary's network. So I will throw that in at some point in the stream, probably towards the end. So if you don't feel like watching the whole stream, Disclosure, obviously you can either watch it after I post it later. I will go over it. I'm assuming you're wanting kind of a price projection. I was hoping you would maybe message and let me know what you're wanting. If I don't hear from you, maybe we'll just look at it briefly and come up with like one price projection for that coin. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. As far as my streams go, I'm streaming on typically, anyways, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time for about an hour. And then Fridays, it's going to be every other Friday. Either one Friday I do 6 p.m. Eastern time as well, which I did this past Friday, or the following Friday I'll be doing an evening stream, kind of a chill stream, maybe have a drink, talk about some things. The Fridays, most people have other things going on, so we'll keep those ones more on the chill side. Today's chill as well, because honestly I'm pretty tired, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. Maybe that's why we don't have anybody in the chat. You're all busy with the fact that it's a Monday, right? So anyway, let's hop on over to this first chart. Looking at the Bitcoin chart. Now before I look at that, I also just want to quickly get the sound in my headphones again. Background music, let's turn that on. Perfect. Okay. That way, at least if no one else is listening to me, I can listen to this music while I talk. So what we're looking at here is the Bitcoin chart. I have it currently on the daily. Now, not a lot has changed, so we're not going to go over a whole lot. Now, if we were to zoom out real quick, we can kind of see that we're still just hanging out slightly above some of this areas back here. Obviously, we're not as high as the top in 2021, but some of these areas where these candles closed, which were around 65,000 before we saw the giant pullback, we're hanging on by a thread, so to speak, to that area. Will it hold? Will it not hold? We're kind of looking for clues every day to add to the idea that either, we're going to pull back further or possibly bounce from here. Now, nothing has really changed as far as I'm concerned. We've talked previous streams about we have this range, we have this upside zone that ranges anywhere, depending on how you draw it, from about 71,500 on up to, of course, where this all-time high was put in at just under 74 or just over 74. It kind of depends on what exchange you're looking at and what chart you have pulled up. But obviously we have rejections in the top side of this zone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's two schools of thoughts that a lot of traders think, or a lot of people that are, setting up charts, trading coins. There's two schools of thoughts. One thought is, hey, the more times resistance is tested, eventually it's going to break. But the flip side of that would say, hey, this is obviously a strong zone of resistance, and we've been putting in slightly lower highs, and this was a little bit higher than this one, but these two are actually lower than this one back here. So, literally could go either way. I call this no man's land. I've mentioned on my last few streams. I'm going to take just a second here and read what Disclosure says. Gary is a Web3 streaming platform on Solana. You know what? As far as diving into Gary, as talking about it, since I don't know anything about it, I can do that on my next live stream. That actually give me a topic to talk about. If you're just wanting me to look into it as far as its website and what it's for, it'd be easier for me to prepare a little for that, in the next stream and then talk about it there. In this one, I would be willing to just, bring it up, look at what its price is, kind of look at its circulating supply, and possibly, you know, give some price projections based on if it were to move up from like 1500, which I think was where it's ranked now, to like number 500. So I don't know if you follow my channel or if you just found me because I'm live right now, but the videos that I've been putting out recently have been price projections based on a formula, and I'll go over that, you know, throughout the stream, or at least at some point in the stream. I mean, it really is probably the most interesting thing that I've been putting out in the past month or so. So we won't take too long on a lot of these topics we're talking about now, if you're really interested in possibly looking at you know, some price projections for that. And then, hey, Trader Kane, how are you doing, sir? Trader Kane, I don't know if I've met you before or had you in my stream, but welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Let me know how you guys are doing today. How was your Monday? Do you work? If you do work, what do you do for a living? Also, are you in any trades currently? Tell me some of the coins you're holding. I just like to interact with chat. Like I said, today's been a long day, and I don't really plan on talking about the topics for very long. So we could obviously chill at a certain point, look at some of the coins you're looking at, or talk, you know, that you want me to look at. Sorry. And discuss those. So, but as far as Bitcoin goes, we talked in the last stream about this potential double top that is trying to be confirmed. We're still hanging out somewhat in this mid-range, but we've talked about if this breaks down, you'd be looking for the measured move to be somewhere back down here, more or less just at the bottom side of the range. And at that point, we have to ask ourselves, does the bottom side hold? Top side's obviously been rejected on 5 occasions. Bottom side has bounced on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 occasions of its own, so it literally is like a teeter-totter at this point, and we're just waiting around to see which way it's going to break. You can sometimes look for clues. Now, what I was going to also mention is that Bitcoin earlier today at least was showing signs of trying to bounce. Well, a lot of times if you see Bitcoin doing that, even though the TA might say, hey, it really looks like it wants to pull back more in the midterm, well, we can come over here to the S&P 500, and lo and behold, it's bouncing today. Like, it's up. I don't know if you can see this on the chart or on the stream, but we're up like, you know, 1 to 1.2% on the day on the S&P 500. Now for the S&P 500, that's a pretty good size move. You can obviously look at these previous green candles and see that, you know, typically that's about all you get in a day to the upside or downside out of the S&P 500, unless there's some, you know, major event going on. So because that bounced, Bitcoin followed. I don't know that the technicals for Bitcoin are very strong. And if you're new to my streams and haven't seen, you know, what I've been talking about on the S&P 500, we do have a target zone up here. Let me hop out to the weekly, and I'll just briefly explain that real quick before we move on, where I came up with that. So we have a top side of it and the bottom side of it. The conservative side, which would be the bottom side, is actually just based on more or less, let me draw it for you. You have this cup. It's not a perfect pattern, so I'm not going to pretend it is, but you had basically a cup and handle. Normally a cup should be a little bit more without all these jagged edges, but we could still call it that. And the measured move for that, you just go from the bottom side up to what's called the neckline, which is the area where it got rejected both times. Pull that up here, and that gave us this bottom side of this range, which is the bottom side of our target for the S&P 500 in the short term. And then we also took a fib retracement from, let's go from this top here all the way to this bottom right here. And you've got the 1.618, which is just a pretty popular fib level for traders or investors to take profits or buy if it's, you know, to the downside. But the 618, that's the top side of my zone. So that's where I came up with that, where we're in basically price discovery for the S&P 500, meaning that if you look back here, obviously on the weekly chart, you know, we've never been here before, so there isn't any area of real resistance from previous history to look at. So you're just coming up with ways of coming up with price discovery targets, which that's the best I could really come up with for now. And really, we're approaching that. We're close enough, in my opinion, that if the market is going to see a bigger pullback, it could happen any day now, or at least the beginnings of it. Now, does it have to pull back? Of course not. You know, it could break out, and then at that point, we'll start looking for some other targets based on either bull flags or a bigger fib level, you know. But for the short term on the S&P 500, and by short term I just mean the next few days to week, that's all I'm really looking at, is just it possibly hitting this resistance that I've come up with here, this zone of resistance. And I need to actually change that to red. Usually on my charts, I have anything that's above us is red. That stands for resistance. Anything that's below us, areas of support are green. And then we can also, let's see what Trader Kane has to say real quick. I follow you from the, hold on, what? I need to make that bigger so I can actually see that. Heart's in the way. Okay, I follow you from the expert crypto days. Oh, is this the Kane? Kane, did you used to do like your own trading live on, is that you? I feel like I know that name now that you say that. Yeah, okay, how have you been doing actually? I don't mind taking a second to see how you've been doing, brother. I didn't forget about you by no means. I just haven't been part of that Discord. I haven't even used Discord in a long time. I kind of just quit using it. So, dude, I'm been good. I had a kid. I don't know if you followed me close enough to know that, but yeah, I have a little boy now, my first kid. Me and my wife have been married for 13 years, but we never had a child. Job I used to do, I traveled a lot, and we always told ourselves we wanted to wait till I was done with that, and of course the years just piled on, and eventually, yeah, so I just had a kid. He's 15 months old. In fact, he's getting some ear surgery done this coming Wednesday. He's getting tubes put in his ears because he's had some issues with the ear infections, but so that's, I guess the next thing on the list for him to stress about, although my understanding is it's a pretty simple procedure, but yeah, thanks, man. It's been nice. I guess anybody, I don't know if you have any children, but it's definitely freaking cool to have. There's Joe. Did you just get here, Joe? I was gonna ask you how your stream went. I was running kind of late today, so I didn't really get much of a chance to do any chatting and really honestly even gather my thoughts. Just kind of got home and had to hop on the stream and get going. You do not. Well, and I went 13 years of being married, and I'm 38 years old, so, I actually started late for people, as far as having kids goes. I feel like a lot of people get to that point and they either have decided no kids, or, I'll be what's considered the old dad. Like when my kid's graduating high school, I'll be pretty old. I'll be, 56? Is that right? 55, I guess. 55. I'll be like 55-ish years old, so I don't think that the majority of kids' parents, are that old unless they're like the third or fourth or fifth child, whereas this is my first. Stream went nice. I don't know if you know Joe Kane, if that's someone you know. He wasn't part of that Discord you were talking about, so he's another guy that's worth subscribing to. He streams every day. He's way cool. He's definitely a badass and somebody worth checking out. He does streams once a day, does tons of videos, and he's just one of those guys that knows what he's talking about. He likes to come show me some support, which is nice because it's not a whole lot happening where I just started streaming. But anyhow, other than that, the DXY was the only other thing I was going to peek at, and I don't really have any TA on it. I actually haven't even looked at it today. I was just curious if there's been any changes on it. Obviously, if there is anybody new to the stream, the DXY is just the US dollar index. All it literally is just showing the strength of the US dollar versus some of the other currencies, the major ones anyways, like the yen, the euro, that kind of stuff. And typically on larger time frames anyways, if this is going up, the traditional stocks and or Bitcoin or both are going down. They basically have an inverse correlation to each other. Not something you can use on shorter time frames in my opinion, and even on larger ones it's not always going to be true. But typically if you're putting a list of things together that you want to stack in your favor, or confluence as they call it, as many things pointing in the same direction, this is just another thing you can take a peek at from time to time and say, hey, is it trending up or down? Looks like right now on the weekly, not much has changed, but I just looked at it probably 3 or 4 days ago. So we probably want to hop over to the daily to see what we got going on. We're still putting in overall higher lows. I talked in the last stream about how maybe this was a high and we could get lucky and maybe this would be a lower high, which would be, possibly bullish over the next few weeks. However, we still have this kind of uptrend going on here. And until that's broke, you have to kind of assume that this little miniature fallen wedge here is breaking out, right? Retesting. And we're probably going to see something like this, unless we break down here. Then maybe we get the pullback we're hoping for. And in my opinion, where we've talked a lot the last few streams about how a pullback is more likely for the S&P 500 coming soon. Bitcoin, I feel like, is looking more and more like it wants to break down, at least in the short term to midterm. As far as just the overall 4-year cycle, it wouldn't hurt for us to have a pullback over the next few weeks that kind of, gets us a deeper retrace. I don't believe we're looking at new all-time highs in the next few weeks, in my opinion, just based on the 4-year cycle and where we probably are on a timing perspective as far as that goes. Doesn't mean that it has to do what I think, it could do whatever it wants. But just to reiterate before we move on from here, I consider this no man's land. If it was me, unless I had an open trade and I was looking to either close it if it was a long, or add to it or ride it if it was a short. I think a short might look a little better than a long at this point, but unless you're in a trade, I wouldn't suggest opening anything. If it's just my opinion, not financial advice, but I think the entire time that we're hanging out in this area, especially at the mid-range, we're in a no man's land. You could look for a bounce if it does come down here, of course. Doesn't mean it has to, but it has 5 other times, so the odds would say that it would. Maybe you look for some longs at that point. If we do bounce in the short term up to here, maybe you look for shorts. But really, for the bigger grand scheme of things, I want to see either a breakdown of this, that'd be my plan A, and then plan B would be a breakout of this, new all-time highs. This is where I think the big money could be made right now as far as like swing trading goes. You really are looking for either, new highs or, new local lows. All right, let's catch up real quick. I wanted kids in my 20s, says Joe, which is trade intuition. Then 30s happened and no kids. Now I'm in my 40s, so happy I don't have. Well, yeah. Especially if it doesn't sound like you have, you're not married or anything. So I guess in that sense, it's nice not having kids because you don't have to probably have child support or any of that. And yeah, not that, if you had kids, you wouldn't be happy to have them. But the point is, like you said, if you've made it this far, no reason, I guess, to stress yourself over it now. I always did want to have kids, so it was starting to look like the same story was going to happen for me, and yeah. I agree with your plan A and plan B. Yeah, yep, you're probably of that same mindset, right? Gonna bounce, bro. It's late here. Oh, gonna bounce. I thought you meant Bitcoin's gonna bounce. No worries, brother. It was really good seeing you. Thanks for stopping in. I hope to see you on some more streams. Send me a message at some point and let me know. If you want to go in the link in the description and maybe add me on Telegram, I don't know if you use that. I don't use Discord anymore. You could also just comment on one of my videos, some way to talk to you. Let me know if you stream or anything. I'd like to stay in contact with you now that I'm hearing from you finally for the first time. Good to catch up. All the best with the streams. I will try and catch them. Yeah, I appreciate that. Have a good one, Kane. Kane goes back. In fact, he almost completely forgot who he was for a second. I had a weird feeling it might be him, but I hadn't heard from him for so long that I wasn't sure. So then he reminded me of an old group on Discord that we used to be part of. A few guys came from that group. In fact, a guy named Sci-Fi that I talk to once in a while that has his own channel, and I haven't really shielded his channel yet on here on my live streams, but I have in previous YouTube videos. He's a cool dude. His channel's Alpha Commission. And maybe towards the end of the video, we'll hop over to his channel just to show it, just to kind of shill it a little bit. He's a cool dude too, and I believe he also came from that actual same Twitter. There you go. He came from the same place Kane did as far as how we all know each other. So, all right, you know what? Let's hop over to our second topic, which is going to be setting up a chart. So we're not going to spend too much time on this one. I don't think we really have anybody brand new to trading in the group, but there might be someone that watches this video later that could benefit a little bit from this. So we're going to use VRA as the example because we do have some members in my Telegram group. There will be the link in the description for that if you want to join the Telegram group that are big VRA holders. I have a little VRA. In the grand scheme of things, it's one of my biggest bags right now, actually, but I don't really have a lot of things that I'm holding currently. So me saying it's a big bag is still a small bag in the grand scheme. I have a lot of coins I'm looking to get into, 4 or 5 anyways, and we'll talk about some of that in future streams. But VRA is one that a guy in my Telegram group put on my radar towards the end of last bull run. I started dollar cost averaging into it. I have an average price of somewhere around 0.006, so it's down about 50% from where I bought in. But at least I'm not, clear up here in some of this price action, which would be kind of scary to be holding on to and hoping to get back to. So the first place that I always start with my charts, and this is probably different than a lot of guys. In fact, I remember when I first learned to chart that some people told me that they thought this was not the way they would do it, but it's just the way I like to do it. And it differs from chart to chart on whether or not I do this, but the first thing I like to do is come up here My average is oh, you got a good average, Rigo. 0.0049. Yeah, that's a little better than mine, but not bad. You know, I'm not too far from that. So I like to go up here where it shows candlesticks and switch it to line. And the only reason I do this to start with is because when you switch it to line, what you're looking at instead of the candlesticks is you're only seeing the closing prices. You're not seeing, you know, on a candlestick, you have a wick and a body, wick being the highest that it went to during that time frame. So if you're on the daily, you might have a wick that shows during the day it went to said price, but it actually closed that candle at, you know, the body price. When you're online, you're only seeing the closing prices. And I want to see if I can find at least 2 to 3, preferably 3+ touches on something like this weekly time frame. And if I can, then I like to put a line there, horizontal, which of course is Alt-H for those of you that are new to the shortcuts and stuff here on TradingView. I'm going to switch this to white. I'm not sure why it was yellow. But you can see here on my chart, let me kind of zoom in a little bit, that by doing that, I did have a touch. I might have to barely budge it here, but we do have a touch here. We got some stuff right along in here. In fact, I'd probably bump it up just a tiny bit more than I did. And then that's just, so the only time I use the actual line chart is just to see if I can find 2 or more touches. So for example, right here, I might consider this another spot up here where I have this touch here and this touch here. This one's close, but we'll probably find that to be one of our zones when we move on. So if you can't find at least 2 or more on a major time frame like this, then I don't mark them. You're not always going to on the line. I just like to start there because it cleans everything up. And I don't know, something about my eyes when I'm looking at candlesticks, sometimes it takes me a minute to decipher between the actual candlesticks and the bodies. So this just makes that easier. Then I switch over to the candles. Candlesticks, and then we're just looking for some other areas that have had a lot of touches. So for example, let's just say we put Alt-H here. You can always delete these if you put a line and you're checking for like 3 or more touches and you find that, oh, I put a line and there was only 1 touch or 2, you can delete it, of course, or move it around. But the reason why I chose here is because real close to here we have that touch, 1, 2, 3, this candle's 4, these bodies are 5. So I mean, you've got this one here makes 6. So clearly you've got quite a few touches around that area. So we're gonna go ahead and get rid of my scribbles. And you could kind of look at this right here then as what I would refer to as my first zone on the chart. If I have 2 horizontal lines that are pretty close to each other within, a certain percent, these 2 are about, I don't know, a pretty big range there. It's about 20%. But really, it is an area where you can see the price action has interacted on multiple occasions. What I like to do then is take this rectangle tool and I like to put a zone. Now, I always fill them in green or red depending on resistance or support. You can choose whatever colors you want. At the end of the day, you need the chart to look appealing to your eyes and be clear. So whether you want to use orange or purple or blue, it doesn't matter. I just have always thought of green as buying and red as selling, so support and resistance, right? Now this is above us, so I'm going to go up here and change the colors to red because clearly that's resistance. And then we can come down here. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit. My face is probably in the way, but this is from the previous bear market, leading into the actual 2021 blow off top. There's not a lot of price action here on the KuCoin chart. Hopefully we don't have to come back down to this support. I guess if we did, either the coin is dying or we've had a really big pullback in Bitcoin and maybe that's the buying opportunity of a lifetime. Let me catch up on chat real quick. His average is, Rico says his average on this coin we're talking about is 0.0049. He says, but I worked on it big time. You mean you worked on lowering so you dollar cost averaged a bunch during the bear market. Do you remember where the first price you bought it was, out of curiosity? Because I don't remember my first buy on it. I just know what my average price is now because I also did the same thing you did. I bought a lot of it while it was lower, but I don't remember what my exact first purchase was. I know that when you put it on my radar, I didn't buy any right away, and I didn't buy any, thankfully, up here at all, like anywhere up here. It wasn't a coin that I traded last bull run. I only started buying it in the bear market, essentially, or at least right towards the end of the large pullbacks, the beginning of the bear market, and a little bit throughout it. So anyhow, so now let's go ahead and see if we can find any middle zones here. We're still on the weekly. I will switch it to the daily now. Typically, if I get a few big lines of weekly resistance and support, you kind of want to work your way from the weekly time frame first back to the daily. if you have enough price action, obviously, to do so. So now we're looking for areas that have had multiple touches on this time frame. You can kind of see if we put Alt-H here that you've got some areas right along in here that have bounced. Support, support, support. 3, 4, a little bit here. 5, 6, 7, 8. And here in a minute, we'll actually show you a couple other little tricks that I use to see if if an area of resistance or support is maybe more important in my eyes than others. We have some other indicators, one called the VPVR, that can help you kind of see what area might be more important. But then we're going to put that one, and then just below that, we're going to put a support level right around in here. This one could actually probably be drawn a few ways. We could go to the bottom of it, maybe also to the top of it here. And this is going to be kind of like a little zone. If we zoom in, you can see that it's not real clear on these touches, but you do have this bounces here, bunch along in there, some here that went a little below, And this is really why it's so important to understand that support resistance needs to be viewed as a zone, and it won't always be perfect. VRA is obviously not a large cap coin, it's a small cap coin, so maybe it wasn't the best example to use for today's video. A lot of times on the larger cap coins that see a lot more trading volume, you can get a little bit more of defined areas that at least don't have so many wicks up and below to where you're having a hard time coming up with your horizontal lines. These coins that are lower cap can be moved very easily. Now VRA is kind of mid-ish, but I'd still say it's on the low side, especially with the prices it's at now. So that's why it's a little tougher to come up with these exact zones on. But it's also a good one to practice on, so we're going to continue on with it. Again, if you wanted to, you could probably come up with a little area right down here. That would be another big area for a zone. We'll call this a support zone that we're actually breaking down from. So we'll go ahead and draw this in here. As far as the long term, when I say long term, I guess we'll call it long term. But anyway, since the top, the most recent high anyways, back here, not this one here, but this one back in 2023, you kind of have a range that it looks like VRA's been hanging out in. Broke above it a couple of times, but for the most part, it's hung out basically between all of this, right? Between my zones. Well, for the first time since back here when it broke above this, which would have been this huge rally, which would have been January of 2023, we're actually breaking down from that. So I know that's got Rigo either excited or stressed, probably a little bit of both. I'm guessing more stressed, but if you're not planning on adding to your bag, you're probably more stressed. But, this is really, and a lot of times when I'm drawing up charts, because I'm a little bit like Joe as well. Joe mentioned in my chat the other day that or actually on his stream, I think it was on his own stream that I heard him say this, that he likes to reset his charts about once every week, just so he doesn't have biases. I don't know that he necessarily means he resets all of his support and resistance, because those don't really change, all the time, at least every day or anything. But he probably means like patterns he's trading, things of that nature. But even then, and we're not going to be going up here probably tomorrow. So, if you wanted to take some of this off and focus maybe on just where we're at now, you could. You could also zoom back out here. This isn't going to be strong support back here, but maybe you still put a couple lines here. And the reason why I like having a lot of these lines is if you're planning on, getting into this coin or adding to positions, this is where the next part of charting to me is the most important, and it's adding alerts to things. So right now, being at this price of 0.00343, and maybe you bought some, somewhere up here in the middle of the range, and you're trying to get a lower price now, or at least bring down your average price, dollar cost average, you could set an alert maybe just above this support that I drew. You can either make a separate horizontal line, or we could just use this one, right click on it. We can say, okay, I want to add an alert on this horizontal line to say that if it crosses that line, now this is just what I like to use on all of them. There's some other things you can toy around with, but if it's me, I like to set it up to where if it just crosses it, it triggers only once. I don't want to hear it trigger every 5 seconds or every time the bar closes. That is another option. Depending on what time frame you set the alert on, like in this case daily, I can have it say that every day that it closes down in that area or below that where it triggered, it will send me another alert. I just use the only once, and then the alert name, I'm going to call it DCA VRA1. Just saying that if it comes down to there, this is an area, my first area. below where we're at now that I'd like to DCA some more money into it. You can also put a message. I don't ever put that, but you could put a little message. And this will be sent to either your phone via text or email. I just use the actual TradingView app on my phone. I find that to be the best. And I just have notifications turned on for it. So I'll get a little notification, but I'll hit create. And it'll put this little, I don't know if you can see it there on the screen. I'll zoom in a little bit. So if you can't, you can. There's this little timer clock looking thing. It's actually a clock, I guess. And it's just saying that, that I set an alert there, basically. And I can actually right click that. I could edit that if I wanted to, either delete it, whatever I want to do, but we're going to leave that there. I don't plan on DCing anymore into VRA personally, right at that level, but I still would like to have an alert there if it gets there. We'll see. I don't plan to, doesn't mean I won't. At least if I have the alert, I can make that decision. So for today on talking about setting up a chart, that's really all I'm going to go into. There's a lot more you can do. In fact, maybe we'll briefly touch on the fib retracement tool. Sometimes I like to use this to see if there's another area that I might want to put an upper. Like if I'm trying to look for areas to take profits, I like using the fib retracement tool, finding a local top, which in this case, we'll just go to this top that was back here, March 6th, 2024, click, drag down to the bottom of where we're at now, which reason why this isn't the best for I guess right now, because we don't know if this is the bottom. But if it were to say bounce from this area, closes back above here and bounces, we could see some areas above fib levels that it might bounce to. You can see that like the 236 is up here, kind of has some confluence with support. You can see that the 0.382 has some confluence back here in this zone that I had drawn. 0.5 has confluence. It's pretty crazy how if you use the fib retracement tool, that a lot of times the levels have confluence, and I find that kind of crazy, but a lot, maybe these people, the market makers, are probably making that happen somehow by making their big buys and sells at the right places. I feel like they've already mapped out a lot of these coins, and they have a unique ability to create those fib levels. So anyhow, let's catch up a little bit. Doesn't look like anybody has had anything to say. Did anybody have any questions on anything of just this little brief tutorial on setting up a chart, finding support, finding resistance? The biggest thing I would say, just to kind of summarize, is you want to start on the weekly chart and then move out to the daily. Honestly, the less noise, the better. Especially if you're not day-to-day trading. If you're actually, so I might even have a little bit more than I need to along in here. VRA, I feel like I said earlier, maybe just a little too low a cap of a coin, so it doesn't have as defined areas, at least around this zone it's been in for bouncing. But, that's a good, I guess, place to start with on setting up a chart. Loving the TA. Yeah, thanks, Joe. In fact, this is the first time I think I've ever shared these outside of a YouTube videos. But what I kind of thought I would do for some of the newer people that watch these videos is I'll go through my trading playlist. Ideally, people should watch those, but I can take the videos I've previously made, the topics that is, and just talk about one topic each live stream, whether that's, something as simple as FOMO, or like I did the other day, I think I talked about the, what was that one chart I was looking at, Joe, that to do with the fear and greed index, things like that. I've made videos about those. I have a playlist. If you're watching this and you're new to crypto, there's actually a playlist on my channel you can look at, and it's just how to trade playlist. And I go through all the basic things like setting up a chart, using the fib retracement tool, using this one that's called the trend-based fib extension tool. We talk about all that kind of stuff, and, you can then get a better idea of how to set up your charts so that you can then start trading. I even talk about how to do leverage trading, which is a little more advanced. I wouldn't recommend if you're new to crypto, probably even messing with that at all this bull run. Just my opinion, not financial advice. Nothing I ever give on this channel is financial advice, but I could still tell you my own advice, which would just be, I wouldn't leverage trade. I did last bull run. It made me a lot of money. It also lost me a lot of money. If I could redo it, I don't think I'd actually leverage trade, especially not anything over 2 or 3x. But if you want to look at into that a little bit, I have videos about that. I have videos on how to trade on some of the exchanges like KuCoin, BitGet. I'm from the United States, so I can't trade on those anymore. But almost all the exchanges are very similar as far as the layout of how you do trades. So I think you could still watch one of my videos like that KuCoin one, and you could still then apply it to like MEXC, and I almost guarantee it's very similar. All right, Epic says Rigo. All right, we're gonna hop on over to our next topic, which another one I'm not gonna spend much time on. I was up pretty late last night. I made a video on HBAR. I don't know if any of you've checked that out yet. It's not a coin I'm in. I never have been. I've heard of it. It's obviously been around for quite some time. I know it has a big following. Based on the views I've had so far, I wouldn't say it's obviously up there with like a Cardano or a Jasmy at the moment as far as people watching that coin. But I do know it's been around a while, and there's a lot of people that hold it. I think it had like 50 views so far since I posted it last night, something like that. Maybe not even quite that many. But it still took me a little while. Those videos take a little while to make, and I usually do them after I put the baby down. So between getting that finished, then I tried to hurry and throw together some ideas for my stream, and I just came up with some simple ones, but nothing life-changing, but still. Okay, so on the whole idea, actually, you know what? I was actually also going to quickly talk about, before we move on from the charting one, let's bring that back up. SERSH, because this is also a coin that Rigo and I hold. Another one that he put on my radar. And I wanted to talk about the idea if you're setting up a chart on a coin that doesn't have much price action. There's not much history, is what I mean. You still can set up your support and resistance, of course, which on a really small cap, which this is a very small cap, we're going to go to like the 4 hour. I'm going to first put on the line and see if we can find anything. I'm going to be very shocked if there's anything there, but we'll try it. Okay, you kind of have this area. It's probably the best one I can find so far. Looks like it was bouncing off of that area. 1, 2, pretty close to a resistance here 3 times, right? So we'll go ahead and count that. Clearly you have this little area most recently, bounced in there, and then now it's kind of created a resistance here at about 22 cents. Now I'll put back on the candlesticks. Now, I'm not going to completely go back over the entire chart, but what I wanted to actually point out is what I like to do on charts like this where they don't have much price action. Let's just say you had SERSH on your radar. Maybe you bought a little bit, which I've bought a little bit of this. Maybe you haven't, but you're looking to. The biggest thing you want to see is a trend change, right? And right now, all that this coin's done to this point is put in these highs, and then low, and then a lower high, and then a lower low, lower high, lower. In the bigger move anyway, you got the high, low, lower high than this one up here, and now we're working on another low. We're already lower than this low here, so the coin is in a downtrend, which is not uncommon at all for a brand new project that hasn't done a ton of marketing yet, and obviously Bitcoin is pulling back, or at least it hasn't done anything exciting for 3.5 months. Well, what you want to see, if you were looking to either add to your position or open your first ever position on this coin, is you want to see this overall trend that we just drew, which is a downtrend, low, lower high, lower low. You want to see this actually put in a higher high than this one, and then flip that maybe as support. So, I mean, I know that's a long ways from where we are now. There's other things you could do. You could zoom in actually if you thought that the coin's not going to go much lower. It did launch at like, I don't think this chart shows it as well as I had a different chart earlier. This is the BitGet. Rigo, do you remember what it launched at? Was it 20 cents? I want to say it launched at 20 cents. This chart BitGet's not showing that, but if 20 cents is where it launched, maybe you don't think it goes much lower than that. Let me catch up real quick here. Rigo says, I read that 100 days after halving is when the big run up starts. Is that accurate? The last halving, it was slow and boring from looking at charts, but could be wrong. With those micro caps, it can run up fast. Yes, micro caps are definitely high risk, high reward. But if you could do your research on them and find the right ones, that you think fit the narratives that are part of this bull run, then yes, they have the biggest potential gains. Now, as far as that 100 days thing, I don't know if Joe, if still here, he could add to that. I don't know that there's an exact science to that. I do know that typically Bitcoin in the past, would rally after the halving, and it didn't this time, or it hasn't yet. But that's because it put in a new all-time high before the halving. So we're already looking at a difference from last bull run to this, as far as that goes. We could look at a Bitcoin chart maybe at the end if we have a few minutes and see if there's any history to suggest that, or talk about it on the next stream. Maybe that's a good idea, is to see if we can put together any more ideas based on the halving. I think the ETFs this bull run already changed things a little bit anyways. And also, a lot of times, if you can find the history, It's probably not going to do the same thing anyway, and maybe you can actually use that as an edge the opposite way. Like sometimes, this is just my opinion, maybe I'm kind of speaking just out of, tongue in cheek, as they say, but I think sometimes, especially now that we're in like the fourth bull run of crypto, and there's a lot of big money in here now inside of crypto, sometimes you can find a trend that worked in the past, and if anything, it's probably going to do the opposite just to fool people. And so if it did take 100 days typically before the big run up, my guess is it won't repeat that this bull run. Let's see, he says normally 2 to 3 months of boring price action, then boom, but it's so difficult now. 60 to 90 days, we in the middle of that boring time. Well, we've actually been, I think, already over 90 days of it just basically chilling. I have to hop back over to the Bitcoin chart to see that, but I want to say we've been chilling for like, since we broke above here anyway. What's that been? Like 100 days, 105. I mean, we're over 3 months anyway that we've basically been hanging out inside this zone. Get rid of these real quick. I don't view it as a bad thing though. I don't know how you guys feel. I guess those of us in crypto start to get antsy because we're like, is it gonna do something? But I haven't been, I guess because I haven't been day trading this bull run. I did a lot more last bull run. I haven't been making day trades. I've been working a full-time job and I have a baby now, so I guess because of that, I don't really stare at the charts every 5 minutes like I used to. I think if I was to go back to last bull run, then this would probably be driving me nuts, or I would at least be trying to be in a trade maybe when it wasn't the best idea. So in that aspect, I'm kind of happy that I'm busier this bull run, at least at this point. I'm hoping that when it starts to rally, of course, that I have time to get into some coins and take advantage of it more than I have so far. But anyhow, back over to SERSH. All I was going to leave off on that is this little area that's current resistance. If you wanted a short-term place to enter on a coin like this, you could remake this as a zone, like we talked about. Right here was support for quite a while there. Now it's resistance. We're going to go ahead and change that to red, follow up on it maybe in a future stream. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Go up this one. You could look for it to break back above and flip either the bottom side or top side of this zone as support. So something between 20 cents, 22 cents, we'll say, and like 26 cents could be a good buying opportunity. It doesn't mean the trend has changed because the macro trend still would be a downtrend until this actually happened. Like I said, you would need to see this happen and start seeing it do this. But at some point, the coin is going to bottom out and go sideways more than anything, and that's kind of what it looks like it's already trying to do. I mean, you've had these big moves, boom, big move, and we're at the beginning of it right now, but this could be the beginning of accumulation. Maybe a lot of the early investors and or team that's selling some of their coins, we're not going to pretend that they don't do that, because at the end of the day, can you blame them? I mean, a lot of people frown upon the whole idea that these teams sell their coins, but I mean, they created the coin, and I guess at the end of the day, people can track that down and might feel bitter about it or feel how they feel, but I just expect it to happen personally. So what we're waiting for is accumulation on this coin to see that a lot of the people that are selling it, or the sell pressure for it, is finally gone, that Rigo has sold all of his bag, hopefully, and is no longer dumping on us. I'm just kidding, Rigo. All right, we'll do some more TA on this coin in the future. I'm actually the reason why I wanted to put it on your guys' radar just a little bit today is it is showing some signs of maybe, like if you look at it maybe here on the daily, let's go back to the daily. This coin's finally starting to get to the point where it's looking a little less ugly. Like you could kind of imagine that it could take some time, but maybe on the lower time frames we start to see some sideways. And then eventually over here, maybe sometime in the end of the summer, maybe we finally put in the higher high than this one back here. Eventually what you're going to see is a giant cup, right? Question is, what will the market be doing when it gets to this point, back up here to this 80 cent range, 80 to 90 cents? Will we see a pullback and another buying opportunity after that, or will we get the moon's chop? But this is kind of where, if you believe in the coins and you're gem hunting, you should be getting excited, because even these low prices are going to be bigger gains. There's gonna be people that wait for this to finally break here and buy, and they might do well if the coin 5x's from there, but from down here, that's gonna be a lot more. So it's good TA on SERSH. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now we will hop over to DCAing in and out. Now I've only got about 10 to 15 more minutes, so I wasn't going to spend much time on, well, actually I was going to spend a fair amount of time on DCA and DCA out, but we'll save that for the next video. I'll just touch a little bit on a few one example of what I was going to talk about. I was going to use the coin Teo as the example for it. I drew some stuff up last night. I was going to reset it, but what I wanted to point out was this happens a lot with, especially new people when they enter the coin. I still do it from time to time as far as, you buy FOMO, you buy an area and then 2 months later or 2 weeks later, it's a terrible spot to buy. But we're going to use the example that you have $1,000, right? And you wanted to buy some Teo. Well, there's going to be the people that accidentally or just didn't know any better and they bought $1,000 all at once. And let's just say it happened right here, this zone up above us. Let me change the colors of this real quick to red. Don't know why I didn't do that last night. Again, resistance, not support. It's above us. But let's just say Teo, YouTubers were putting out videos. It was going up and up and up and up. And you bought it right here as it broke this at around $600. So we're going to say you bought $1,000 worth of Teo at $600, right? Well, at that point, as soon as it came over here and broke down from 600, you'd want to be looking, if you're comfortable adding more to your position. If you're not, I like Joe's concept of if you believe in the coin, or even, as long as it looks like it's not going to fall apart and disappear, just hold. Eventually, if you believe that Bitcoin's going to break new highs and go to at least 85, 90K, this coin's going to break back above your 600 buy. You can just wait it out. But let's say you were comfortable and only invest what you can afford to lose, but you could invest another 1,000 into it. You could split that a couple different ways. You could do 500, 500 at some other lower levels. I always like the idea of splitting it more like 400, 600 or 350, 650. I like my lowest buy to be the bigger money, right? But rather than, you wouldn't want to buy a whole 1,000 lower because you don't know how much lower it could go. So let's just say it broke down from 600. You've done some TA on some lower zones of support. One of the reasons I brought up this fib retracement tool is from this low here on the chart up to, we'll just use these highs. This is a giant wick, but we'll just use like these highs here. You can kind of see that there's the fib levels of like the 0.5. It did bounce at that first. It later used it as resistance. I don't know if you can see that on my chart here, but I'm talking about these wicks here. That's around 480. Now, I like this golden pocket zone, which is between the 618 fib and the 652. Now, there isn't a lot of confluence now, but you wouldn't have known that, obviously, when it broke down here, from this zone up here. So you would have just put a buy order down around $400, and said, hey, if I get an alert on TradingView, I'm going to buy there. If it was, me, again, not financial advice, but if it was me, I would do like 350 at that point. Now, there's actual websites, and I'll talk about some of them on the future streams. I don't use them, though, so that's why I didn't do enough research for today's stream. There's websites where I believe you can put in, exactly where you bought a coin, how much, and it'll just do all the math for you. But what I like to do is I like to say, okay, I bought, let me pull this up real quick. Let me make this bigger so you can see what I'm talking about. So if you bought Teo, $600, right, and you bought $1,000 worth, you could take 1,000, you divide it by 600. You'd say, okay, I have 1.66 Teo. So maybe you pull up a little notepad, you type in, I own 1.6 Teo, and I've put in $1,000 so far. Well, then let's say you bought $350 worth at the $400 level. So then you take 350, which is the amount you spent, divided by that new buy order price. Now you got another 0.875 Teo. So I'm gonna put that up here. I know you guys can't see that real well. Let me drag it over here a little bit so you can. And the amount of money you have in it now would be $1,350. And then, last but not least, let's say we'll minimize this for a second. You set a level down here. This is like, it's bounced here once, it's bounced here twice. You were looking at this whole level close to 300 as a good buying opportunity. Again, we're in hindsight now, so it's below that. But we're trying to imagine that you were playing this kind of as it was going, and you decided to go ahead and spend the other 650 at that price. We're gonna pull this up. We're gonna type 650. We're gonna divide that by that price of 300. That means we have 2.16 Teo that we were able to buy at that price. 2.16, and that's the other 650. So now at that point you'd have $2,000 in Teo, right? And if we add together the amount you own, I probably could do this math in my head, but it's been a long day, so let's just use the calculator. 2.16. You now have 4.635 Teo. I mean, this is just roughly. Of course, you can use your exchange to look at the exact number when you made the purchase. It will tell you on the exchanges under your order history exactly how much you bought and exactly at what price, you know, but you should know how much money you put in because you set that when you place the order. But we have 4.635 Teo, and we had $2,000 in. So now we could actually do the math of how much money we've spent in Teo, 2,000 divided by 4.635, and that's going to give us our new average price. So we'd have $2,000 in this scenario into Teo, but instead of that $600, you know, price, which is the first place we spent too much on, you know, theoretically you should have, if you were going to put $1,000 into Teo, you shouldn't do it all at once. You know, you should have dollar cost averaged in. This is assuming you made the mistake. Well, now you've at least been able to bring your buy order back down to 431. So now you could make these marks on the chart. I think I made this one last night, kind of right around that. And you can kind of see that if the coin were to bounce at some point up to this level where it's been to several times in the past, it was either support or resistance, that you could, if you didn't believe in the coin, get out of it entirely, you know, and at least now, instead of waiting for it to come clear back up to here at 600, you can get out of it here. What I like to do if I feel like I'm overexposed to a coin is, you know, I like to actually sell sometimes, say half of it. Maybe that extra 1,000 I put in that I was comfortable, like, you know, losing if it happened to be the case. You know, that's the biggest thing, is you need to be only putting in what you can afford to lose. But maybe I decide to go ahead and sell that extra 1,000 at this price if it bounces to it. That way I'm back to my original 1,000 and I'm at this price now instead of this price up here, right? Now, on the next stream, we'll talk a little bit about dollar cost averaging out of coins. That was not really a scenario of dollar cost averaging out of it for profit taking. That was dollar cost averaging out of a, you know, risk exposure to the coin. Later in the bull run, assuming Teo recovers and does what we all think it can do, you know, it's going to eventually be breaking above these and going higher, and you're going to want to use some different TA to find price targets up higher, and you're going to want to take profits at several levels, and we'll talk about that. Let's catch up on stream. Rigo puts a thumbs up. He says, that's good, TN. I already read that earlier. Teo under 300 is still good. I think so. I actually think that this coin has a lot of hype to it. It really was a coin that came out not all that long ago, as you can see. Pretty sure this is maybe not the oldest chart for it, but it's close. It may be. I think I had two charts brought up for it, and they both show the same thing. So Teo may have just launched right around here. Of course, it had a crazy rally. I didn't buy any up here. Actually, in fact, I don't have any Teo. I've traded it a few times. One time successfully, one time not. We'll call it break even probably on my Teo trades. But it's just a coin I've had on my radar because, from my understanding, I need to do a little more research. It has some good fundamentals, and you know, it fits a few of the narratives for this particular bull run. So it's just a coin that I'm going to keep on my radar. And I agree with you. I think that us being back down here, approaching the 886. The 786 broke down. That would have been a good buy level, I think. I think if you bought Teo at $300, $325, you know, I think you'll be happy maybe in 4 or 5 months from now. Maybe it takes a year, but you will be happy. And obviously anything below here, unless the coin falls apart and dies, will be good. Okay, so what's on my mind is going to be our last topic of the day. And like I said, I'm tired, so there's probably not a whole lot flowing through this brain of mine. But what I wanted to say on my mind would have been exchanges was one thing I wanted to talk about. Let's hop back over here to hear while we talk about this. Reminder to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're watching this video later, always feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know if there's anything you would like me to talk about on stream. I know that we're going to save it for next stream just because I have to go get my baby soon, but there was a coin called Gary Network that one of the guys commented about earlier. I don't know if you're still here as disclosure. I apologize that I ran out of time today to talk about that, but if you want to come into my stream tomorrow, I will make it a specific topic where I spend 15 or 20 minutes talking about it. I think every couple of days is a good idea to revisit my formula. I think that that's a lot of what brought people to my channel recently as far as subscribers go, so we might as well talk about it, right? You guys can, we can even have a little session where we just have you throw me some coins, and we can do a little brief TA on it from the chart perspective, and then follow that up with price projections based on my formula. Now, if you're seeing this for the first time and have no clue what I'm talking about, I have videos on my channel where I'm putting out price projections. You can find a playlist about this, watch those. Otherwise, you can also show up to tomorrow's stream and we'll go over it a little bit with Gary, Network, and a few other coins. I remember Gary from last bull run. GAROI rings a bell, so I know it must not be a new coin. It must be a coin that's been around for a minute, but we'll save that for tomorrow. But what I wanted to mention about exchanges being on my mind was literally just that I'm from the United States, and I'm curious from some of you that might want to give me a comment in the comment section if you're outside of the United States. Probably not going to help me as much as if you're inside the United States, but I need to know what some of you guys are thinking about moving to if you're like me and you've been using MEXC. I previously was using KuCoin. Obviously, that started requiring KYC, so I moved on from it. Then I started using MEXC, which has been an exchange I've liked. Probably been using it now for about a year. And it's now, I believe, getting ready to require KYC at the end of this month or something, or really close to that. I've looked at BYDFI. It doesn't have as many coins, obviously, but it does have some of the ones that I've been looking to buy, which really is all that matters to me, of course. Curious if any of you guys use PancakeSwap. I've never used PancakeSwap. I bought a lot of coins last bull run on Uniswap. We could even make a video about how to use that. I'm sure it's very similar to PancakeSwap. Uniswap, just different currency or whatever to buy the different tokens. PancakeSwap, I believe you can use BNB or something like that, or the cake token, whereas Uniswap would be, of course, like Ethereum. So that's one of the things on my mind. I just wanted to know what you guys thought. Joe says, love streams because it's understanding the thought process. Yep, I need to catch some more of yours out. I've been a little bit disappointed that I've been working so much and then at night trying to keep these videos going that I haven't caught up on your streams for a minute. And I know they're good. The little bit I've watched them, they're very entertaining. Again, shout out to Joe, which is Trade Intuition in the chat. You should subscribe to his channel and watch his live streams daily at 3 p.m. Eastern time. He does a really good job. He's been around the space for a while, and he speaks like a true veteran of the space. What else is on my mind? Well, just like everybody else, when is the next big move in crypto going to be? I have some ideas, but at the end of the day, I just think that they're ideas. I think that the market will move when it decides to move, and the question is that going to be just Bitcoin again, or are we going to see an alt season? We'll talk about Bitcoin dominance a little bit tomorrow, just touch on it. I like to look at that chart at least every few days, and we didn't look at it today, so we'll look at it tomorrow. We're approaching, last I looked, some resistance on that chart, so maybe we get a little alt season, or at least I'll call it alt relief, since altcoins have kind of just been bleeding for a while now. But if Bitcoin's going to break down first, then we want to wait and see where that finds support. So there's a lot on my mind in relation to when's the next big move in crypto going to be. Usually about the time you're bored and about to fall asleep, that's when it finally does it. And I'm not sleeping yet on crypto, but I am getting bored. So I think we're probably getting closer than we are further. If we're 100 days, I don't think we're going to be 200 days. So sometime in the next, month or two, preferably sooner, we're probably going to see some sort of a better move out of crypto. Question is that a big downside move? Is it an upside move? A little bit of both. Time will tell. Well, before I sign out for today, does anybody else have anything else they'd like to add to the stream? Anything you want to discuss? Anything on your mind? What's on your guys' mind? I really do hope everybody had a good day today. Mondays are hard. You have the awesome weekend, but the weekends always seem to go too fast. And all of a sudden it's Monday again. Great stream, says Joe. I appreciate it. Wasn't as prepared today. I realized that. But, I put on my red hat, so hopefully, worst case, at least I had a cool hat you could look at. That was my goal. It wasn't really a 5-star stream. We probably should cover this. It was a 4-star stream. Maybe only a 3-star stream, but nonetheless, we put on the red hat. So I also put on the red hat because I think that Bitcoin's going to go down. I was sending a subtle message that it's going to be red here soon, and maybe that's also just my hope. I actually literally am hoping for a pullback. I know a lot of people probably aren't. I've been wanting it. I've been a little worried that the longer it takes, that it's not going to happen. and that's fine too. But if it could happen, it would scare a lot of people that maybe aren't scared yet. The last time we looked at the fear and greed index, it was still a little bit greedy. I want to see that at least come back to neutral before I make any big purchases. And I'd really love to see it get down to a little bit of fear, but you know, we're in a bull run at the end of the day, so time will tell. Perfect timing. Oven timer going off. Baked chicken. Yeah, I got to go get my baby, and then we're going to have ourselves some dinner. So I guess that's probably a good place to leave it out. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, looks like that's not working anymore. There it goes. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next stream. Again, that'll be tomorrow, which will be Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, you can watch my videos on my playlists, crypto price predictions, some of my previous live streams. And as always, on the way out, just want to remind everybody to invest in yourself.